Hello and welcome to the Performers Who Pivot podcast, brought to you by your host Grace Francis. This podcast is for actors and performers who are navigating two careers at the same time. Maybe one performing arts career and one business to fall back on, or a business to have alongside your performing arts career, or perhaps you want to leave the performing arts industry altogether but don't want to retrain, so you are exploring how to progress using the skills you already have. Today's episode is sponsored by DramEd. Yes, that's my very own company sponsoring this episode. We have Sara Jane Kaba on the Performers Who Pivot podcast today. Sara Jane is a long-time friend of mine. We met at university when we were studying performing arts, and we've been besties ever since. I am the godmother to her daughters. She was the maid of honor at my wedding. So yeah, hopefully that just shows you how much of good friends we are. But our journey from university doing performance was quite different. Sara Jane went into the corporate world after that, and she's more pivoted back into performing arts. So I will let Sara Jane share the details on that. Sara Jane, can you give us an introduction? Can you tell us a bit about who you are and what you do?
Well, hello, good afternoon, or good day, good morning, whatever time you'll be listening to this podcast. My name is Sara Jane Kaba. I am 34 years old. I have been in love with performing arts since about the age of 3 years old. So solidly from 3 to about 22, I lived, breathed, ate, slept, however you want to call it, performing arts. I studied drama and music at GCSE level, and then went on to do a BTEC performing arts, and then went to London Metropolitan and gained my bachelor's degree in performing arts. And around that time, I also was working with MeWe Arts, Youth and Theatre, and then went and toured around Europe doing theatre and dance, and then also worked for a variety of councils, so Haringey, Hackney, Kingston, running their summer schools, and different sort of different things, so from musical theatre to carnival, so little things to do with performing, dancing, acting, singing. And then I got married and fell pregnant, and then I was like, oh, I need to grow up, which I didn't have to, but I felt like I needed to, in order, because I was having a baby. I was like, okay, when I have the job, performing arts jobs, it's really great, like they pay really well, but then when you don't have the jobs, it's like, okay, you're looking for work, and I didn't want to have that kind of struggle. So as soon as I fell pregnant, I got a job in a call center, and I was there for a little while, then had my baby, then went back into the call center, and then just stayed there. And then it got to January of this year, January 2021, and I just sat at my desk and I was like, what am I doing with my life? I can't sustain this anymore. I was really stressed out with work, didn't feel like they were appreciating me. So I quit my job, and then I called up Grace and I was like, Grace, I'm jobless, please help me. And that's when Grace started doing her licensee stuff with DramEd, and so she brought me on, and since then I've been doing a bit of work with DramEd, with booth theatre, with dance focus, so and IDA, so a variety of different performing arts schools. And now I'm trying to establish myself within the industry under my company, which I also started, called Soca Moves, and just trying to bring dance into the curriculum, and also my sort of spin on performing arts. So that's kind of like a long-winded, quite condensed introduction to what my experience, what I've done, and what I'm currently doing at the moment.
I absolutely love how you have condensed all of that into such a short, introduction, because that's something that we've like worked on and we've talked about in the past, is how we kind of sell ourselves, and I think that could be like a really good topic of conversation for this episode, because I'm just really in awe of how you just done that, actually. And you did so well, actually, to share and tell us what you do and your journey to this point. So what I find really interesting, and what I think listeners will find really interesting, is you did what a lot of us do, or a lot of us contemplate doing. A lot of us who are still in the performing arts, late 20s, early 30s, still somehow navigating a career in the performing arts industry in between our performance-based jobs, have got to the point many times where we're like, I just want to give up. I want to give up, and I just want to get a stable job that is going to pay me. I know what my paycheck is going to be. That just sounds like a dream. And it does for so many of us. But you did that and it didn't fulfill you. How did you feel? Like, what was your feelings? What was the point of, because it must have been a really big, bold move to make, to come back into the industry and actually say, you know what, I'm going to opt for the potential inconsistencies of coming back into the arts industry until I set myself up and go down more the entrepreneurial route, which even then is still, when you're managing your own business, it isn't the dream that everyone makes out, especially in those first stages. You can get to a point where the rent is getting paid for easily and you can sit back. But in the beginning, it is still, it's a journey.
So for me, I often look back and say, do you know what? I can't regret the choices that I've made, because with the stability that I had, working, having a 9-to-5 job, I was able to purchase a house, and, with the support of my husband as well, we were able to, build ourselves up, buy a property for our family, which, we are comfortable living in. And, I did that in order to support my family. And I just got to a stage in my life where I was like, okay, I need to put myself first. And, luckily for me, I have a very supportive husband who just said, you know what, I can see how depressed you are with this job, and I will support you in whatever ways I can. And so, having him support me go back into performing arts, which I loved, because when I first met him, that's what I was doing. I was doing all the performing arts jobs, and he was there with me when we were, trying to save our little money for our flat. And, he was there with my highs when I had my highs, and I was getting, getting ridiculous money to do like a week's work. And then now coming back to it, it has been a struggle. There's been days when I'm just like, oh, I can't do this. I'm going to go back and get a job. But then, getting a job and going and teaching children, it just gives me that boost to keep going, and I know that I will get there. I see my friends who, Grace, for example, I see you doing it, and, having a family, supporting a family, running your business. I see how successful you are. So it just gives me that motivation to keep going. And also, there was a time when I was like, okay, I can't do this, and money wasn't coming in. But, if I'd given up then, I wouldn't be where I am now. And I'm actually, I've got a few jobs. I have money coming in. So, I'm not in the position where I was, say, 3 months ago, when I was panicking and thinking, oh God, there's no money coming in. But now looking forwards, I've got a steady income coming in at the moment. So as long as I can just keep working at that pace and making sure that I'm securing jobs and getting all my finances in place, I can sustain this. And I'm happy. Like, everyone keeps telling me, everyone I speak to, who I spoke to years ago, they say, you're just so happy. Like, I speak to you and you are in such a good place. And that's because I am doing what I love, which is performing.
So we have been working together, and I was one of the people who were there when you decided you wanted to build a career doing what you love. And that's something that I think is so important. I think we owe it to ourselves, we owe it to the world to show up in the world doing what we know we are good at, doing the things that we enjoy. And that can be anything. But for you, it is creating. For you, it is performing. For you, it is doing all the wonderful things that you do. And like you said, your soca moves as well, which I'm so happy that you're starting a business around. And for anyone who doesn't know,
so soca is music that originates from the Caribbean. It is a fusion of African and calypso music. So not your zontos, but traditional African music with lots of drumming and beats mixed with old style Caribbean music. So very really light-hearted, lots of different instruments, and they basically meshed them together to make more of a high tempo, high energy style of music, which is now called soca.
And one of the things for you pivoting from the corporate world is that you didn't have confidence in your entrepreneurial qualities. You weren't aware of your entrepreneurial qualities. I think that's one thing that was a learning curve for us both, where my mind operates in a completely different way, having worked for myself for all these years. You had come from a completely different approach, and we needed to find a way where we could both learn from each other's skills, because there is definitely benefits to coming from a corporate approach. One of the things that I really admired about you was your level of organization and the way that you wanted things to be clear and concise in your inbox. For example, you wanted that to be clear and empty, so you had the space to do the things that you needed to do. But when it came to marketing yourself, that was something that you struggled with. Well, how do I sell myself? How do I share what it is I have done and I can do? And I remember us having a conversation where it was like, well, Sara, you've done a lot of things, and you've done a lot of things during corporate, and you can pull lots of qualities from that. But even before you entered into that corporate world, like you said, you'd toured Europe, with Me, We, You Theatre. You'd engaged with, you've done participatory theatre. You'd worked in participation and engaging different communities. All of those are really, really strong skill sets and experiences for being able to sell yourself and your work.
I think for me, it was a lot of soul searching, which I am still struggling with. There's something in me, I don't know what it is, but I'm on a journey to try and figure it out, of why I don't feel deserving of being successful. There's something that I'm currently looking into to see, where I'm going wrong. But one thing that really helped just push me and just help me to where I am and making me feel a bit more confident is that I have an affirmation, which is live for yourself. And I feel like I put a lot of pressure on myself to be loved by everyone and accepted by everyone. And I also think that as well, it comes back, it's derived from, you know, being a what I call a brown person, but in the mainstream you would call us Black people, but being, you know, a brown person, and wanting to be accepted, and also, you know, trying to stand out for the right reasons, you know, not trying to be a stereotypical brown person, if you want to call it, and just trying to be better than that. So that I really struggled with, and it got to a point where I was like, you know, not everyone's gonna like me, and I had to accept that. And until I accepted that, I think that was the kind of pivotal moment for me, when I was like, okay, do you know what? Just do it. You know, I was kind of setting myself up to fail before I'd even started, because I was just so scared of what people were going to think. Would people receive, you know, soca music in the UK? And I was like, just do it. And also, one of the things, the people who really helped me was my mentor. So before I even started my business, I signed up to Santander's Women in Business, and I didn't have a business, but I was like, do you know what? I want to start a business, so let's just sign up. I mean, it was scary. I was terrified doing the application form, because I was like, they are not going to accept me because I do not have a business. And, you know, so I put in my application form, a deadline to come back to people passed, and I was like, okay, do you know what? I haven't got it. Then an email pops into my inbox saying, you know, you've been paired with Carol, which she is an amazing woman, who has just helped me so much with when I was doubting myself, and like just going to her when I had, like, I'd say, you know, it's a silly question. She's like, no question is a silly question, Sara Jane. And I'm like, okay. And then so that kind of, I feel like I'm waffling on now, but that kind of just helped me and kept me going. And also, I keep saying it, but also, I don't think you, Grace, realized how much you've helped me. And like, I just see you doing it, and it just motivates me to keep going. I can't remember, there's this particular word that you use, is it like a inspirer? Expander.
Yeah.
So definitely, like, I don't know if sometimes I feel like every time something pops up and it's like, who is the inspirational woman? And I'm like, Grace. I think one of the biggest driving factors is just having you at the back, like just checking in on me. And then whenever I see, you know, your name pop up, and I'm like, oh God, have I done this? When I last spoke to Grace, is she going to shout at me? And you never do, but you're always like, okay, how can I help you? And yeah, so thank you for that.
Oh, and do you know what? It's a pleasure, and just thank you for reminding me. Actually, like, I am going to open up and receive that, because there's so many times when I sit there and I think to myself, oh, what am I good for? And I have a meltdown. So it's really lovely to hear, but it also is also really lovely to hear about your mentoring experience. And I think that's really important for other performers who are starting their own business, who are going on an entrepreneurial journey and are working for themselves. I think Sara Jane's just highlighted how valuable it is to get yourself a mentor and get someone who can root for you, someone, an accountability buddy. It can be a friend, because when I phone you up, yes, you know, we're working together as DramEd being a licensor and you being a licensee as DramEd, but at the same time, we're friends. And so most of the time when I'm checking up, well, like when I'm phoning, it is just checking in to see how you are. But because we're in the same industry, we have that accountability towards each other, and which is really nice. And it's really helpful, and I definitely recommend anyone who's going through that to experience to get yourself a mentor. And if you do identify you as a woman, and you use that pronoun, if I'm correct, and I am educating myself on this, but Santander's mentoring program for women, female leaders, women in business is there, and that will be linked in the show notes. That's something that happens every year, so you can check the show notes if you're interested in that. I also wanted to share, and I love this episode with us talking as friends, because I think we can be quite open about this, but you started off by saying how you're working through the little voice that tells you that you're not deserving of all the great things that you want to achieve and experience. And that's something that I can relate to. And I think me and you are both open about the fact that we get therapy. And in fact, we've encouraged each other to get therapy. And I know from experience, my therapist said this last week, she can fully see from being an outsider that my little voice that holds me back as an adult is very much linked to my childhood. And I probably haven't shared this on any episode so far, and I'll probably do a whole episode on it, but I do share that my work in the performing arts has stemmed from me living at home with, very loving parents. I lived with one of my parents who was a single mother, but she suffered from depression, and that meant that there was times when I was having custard for breakfast, stuffing for dinner. We lived with 14 dogs who didn't get walked, the curtains were never opened. It affected my school life, and it affected my confidence, and I can see how that still affects my confidence to this day. And when I met you, you didn't look like who you look like now.
I was clinically obese.
So Sara Jane, she just looks like a different woman, really. And that you was clinically obese from childhood, if I remember correctly. Is that right?
Yeah. So I think as a young 16-year-old, I think I topped the scales at about 23 stones, which for a 16-year-old, you should be on average like between 9 to 10 stones. So I was double what I should have been at my age. So that's why you would use the term clinically obese, because I was under the care of the hospital in terms of trying to get my weight down. And I never let it, it got to a stage, I feel like performing arts saved me in the sense that, when I was feeling really down, I could play all these different characters, and it was great. And it was kind of like I got to escape from my life. I didn't feel fat when I was performing. I thought I was invincible. I was on top of the world. And that's why I did a lot of plays. I've been in so many different musicals, from Little Shop of Horrors to Oliver Twist at school. And that was my saving grace. That was my escapism from, being the size I was. And it was only when I got into university and it became more intense that I actually kind of pivoted a little bit away from theatre, because I'd always been theatre. And because I was so big, I was like, I can't do dance. But then having to do dance, I kind of naturally started losing weight. And then I went on this really fad milkshake diet, and I used to be really crazy, and everyone used to think I was weird, even you, Grace. I used to walk around campus with my little milkshake and my sachet. And, I lost, I think it was about 8 or 9 stones, something like that, from dancing, from having 400 calories a day. And, the weight fell off. And then had children, went up a little bit, and then got to a point where I was like really big. And then I was like, no, I need to do something for myself. I need to, because at that point I feel like I lost my identity. I lost who Sara Jane was. I was just mum. I was just wife. Didn't know who I was. And until I started, I reclaimed my full name, because I was going around like SJ. And until I said, okay, before you was a wife and a mother, you were Sara Jane. Who is Sara Jane? So until I got therapy and went through that journey, and it clicked that, I have to do things for me, I started losing the weight again. And now I'm a very healthy 10 stone. So, in my lifetime, if you want to put it together, I probably lost maybe 30 stones of like the yo-yo up and down. But now I'm a very healthy 10 stone. So I just need to now keep that and run with that. And I always said to myself that once I'd lost the weight again, and I was kind of in a stable position, I would get back into performing arts. And I think this pandemic just made it was like a kind of like a slap in the face, like, come on, Sara Jane, you've lost the weight now, you are in a comfortable position now, this is your time to do it. And so I've done it now. So I've lost the weight and I'm back into performing arts, which I'm very happy about. And I think you just need to, if you have a passion, you have to just do whatever it takes to follow that passion. Because I was talking to my husband and he was saying that not everyone has a passion, and I'm in a good position, so I need to follow through with that. And that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, and I agree. Not everyone, I feel like people have forgotten what it is that they are good at in life, because society has taken it out of us. Or, often there are people in the corporate world that are doing what they are good at doing. They are lending their skills and their talents to their work, and they are loving it and they are thriving it. But so many of us stop doing the things that we loved doing as a child, the things that helped us find ourselves and helped us get back to ourselves, which performing arts obviously was that for you. And I can totally relate with the escapism and stuff. And it's why I always say as well, part of what I'm really passionate about is making the acting industry and the arts industry more inclusive, because so often it's not. It is very white, it's very middle class. And sometimes, it's the trauma that makes a good performer. That's what you're saying. It's the trauma that makes a good performer. So, get past your trauma. That's a whole different conversation itself. I should create an episode on that, the trauma that makes the performer. However, I digress. There is a question later on that I might ask you, and it is, can you tell us about your biggest achievements? And I just thought, as you were showing that, God, Sara, that is such a big achievement. And then I don't think it's something that you share enough. And often when I ask that question, I feel like people think that they have to say, well, I was in this episode of this TV program, or I had this many accolades. It's not often about that. I think sometimes our biggest achievements is how we kind of overcame the darker sides of ourselves, or like moved through those dark times. For you, there's so many that I can say, but losing all that weight is a massive achievement. And one of my biggest achievements is getting past having a child at 16 and still managing to have a career after that, and raising happy children. And that is probably my biggest achievement. So there's just something that I wanted to highlight there. I also wanted to talk about the fact that you do have another not stable, but you've kind of got another office job that's still in the performing arts, because you know how much money you want to make. You're doing the things that you need to do that, which is doing a lot of teaching, a lot of performing. You're working on your own business, which is an investment in itself. It costs money to start a business, absolutely. So you've now gone and got yourself an office job, but it's part-time and it's very much within the arts industry. Can you tell us a bit about that? Because I think that's something that a lot of people don't hear, that we do sometimes need to have a bridge job. We do need to sometimes have to find something that is that we can rely on, that we know is consistent, but it is possible at the same time to find something that's more aligned to what you enjoy doing in life.
Yeah, so I also work part-time as a administrator for Odd Eyes Theatre Company, which is a not-for-profit organisation. They are, funny enough, actually, I came across Odd Eyes Theatre at university. It was one of the modules we had to do community theatre, and I was put on a placement. It wasn't Odd Eye Theatre at the time, but I was put on a placement with Amelia, who is um, the director and what would you artistic director for Odd Eye Theatre, and she was she came from Italy. Very brief background about her. Came from Italy. She came over to the UK. She was made homeless, and she then, through Cardboard Citizens, discovered a passion for theatre. She then got a scholarship through them to study at London Metropolitan, and then set up her theatre company eventually. So while she was in that process, she worked at London Metropolitan as a practitioner for community theatre, and I was put on her placement. So yeah, learned about community theatre through her, and then I was then looking for a part-time job, and I really wanted to stay within theatre, or just performing arts in general. And I was still on their mailing list, and an email came in about them needing an administrator, and I sent this long email, and I said to myself, do you know what? Just be open and frank. And I literally said, I think I've met you before. Because at this time, we knew we'd crossed paths, but we didn't know how. It was only through a conversation that we figured out where we knew each other from. So anyway, I sent her this long email, and this is the longest cover letter I've ever written. I don't know why, but I just felt the need to explain to her where I was, that I quit my job, I'm in performing arts, I'm trying to start up again. And she said that was one of the things that kind of drew her in, was my story. Because 9 times out of 10, you get these cover letters, and they're very very generic, or there's people who are really overqualified. And she was like, you were overqualified as well. However, it was your story that kind of drew me in, the confidence that you displayed in just quitting your job and just being honest about, this is what you want to do. So got the job. And so for me, it was great because, one, trying to apply for grants and stuff, it's quite hard unless and what I'm learning at the moment is that there are specific words that people look for in an application form for you to get grant and funding. And it's not great to say, but it's this is where knowing people in the industry helps, because people sit in board meetings and say, okay, for example, I was speaking to I don't know if I should name names, but I was speaking to this guy, and he was saying the trigger word is for a specific grant he was applying for is Basildon. So he was like, okay, I'm going to go to Basildon and run theatre for children who from low incomes, because he put Basildon in his application form, and that's the word they were looking for. And this is his friend told him that they're giving grants to people in Basildon. He got the grant. So it's kind of like, okay, now I'm learning that, okay, I need to start networking and trying to get this information. And this is one of the reasons why I took this job. One, to get a steady bit of income whilst I'm still trying to set up. And also it's within the field that I'm currently exploring and what I want to do. So, you know, being able to give this opportunity is great for me, because it's like, okay, I know that I'm getting X amount from Odd Eyes, and then, you know, I've got these other little contracts. So I know for the next 6 months or whatever, I know how much income I'm coming in. So then I can plan with that, and then look for more jobs coming in. So it's helping me. I mean, I'll definitely, if you can get a job within performing arts, they are out there. You know, even volunteering, you know, in a theatre is also great, because you're learning skills that you can put on your CV and say, you know, I've done X, Y, Z. And also, you know, it does help you when you're applying for other jobs. And also, you know, I feel like I'm digressing again in terms of like, you know, the opportunities that are coming up within Odd Eyes Theatre. Doing research on that, it's always, people are always looking at your experience. So the more experience that you have in performing arts industry, it's really invaluable for yourself. And also just being honest with people. I think sometimes, you know, in performing arts, we have all these flashy things, and we're really trying to sell ourselves. But sometimes you just, if you're a bit more personable, I think that helps.
Oh my
That
gosh.
will help you apply it better.
I just think in life, if you're in performing arts, just being personal, one thing that really put me off about performing arts when I kind of stepped back from the industry is the ego that comes with performers sometimes.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh my gosh, like, oh, and I hated being a part of that, or thinking that as a part, even saying I'm an actor. It's like, no, I've got to be more than an actor. And I'm so glad that I went off and did something that really does feel meaningful. And now when I say I'm an actor, I know why I'm an actor. Like, yeah, I'm an actor because I enjoy acting, but at the same time, I have DramEd, a creative education company which enriches children through performing arts and helps other performers lend their skills to education. So it just gives you more substance. I have a story to tell, and I think that's important. Build something else alongside your, you know, if you want to be an actor or you want to be on the stage, just build something alongside that. It's a real holistic creative journey. Understand your why with it. In 60 seconds, Sara, can I ask you to tell me, if you can imagine yourself at 86 or any other ripe old age, where are you in your favorite part of the world? Where are you? What are you reflecting on? What has Sara Jane done in life?
Okay, 86. I will be either in Cameroon or Grenada, because one of the stipulations of getting married to my husband, he was like, I'm not going to retire in this country, which I was like, yes, I'm very happy, because I want to be somewhere really hot. So I'll probably be in either Grenada or Cameroon. And, you know, soca music will be playing on Heart or, you know, Capital One, and it's just more mainstream, and soca moves will still be, you know, an international success, and everyone would just know what soca music is. That's the dream.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Where can we find you and support your work? Where can we support Soca Moves? Where can we support Sara Jane?
So I have 2 Instagram accounts. I have at Soca Moves. So Soca, SOCA, Moves with an S. I don't know, should I spell it phonetically? No, I don't
No,
know.
it's linked in the show notes.
Okay. And DramEd _ Sara Jane. So with my dance, I've got soca moves, and then with my acting, teaching, actually a little bit of both, because we do play in our DramEd classes. So I've got DramEd Sara Jane, which I'm trying to build up at the moment. And yeah, and then my website as well, which is www.socamoves.com, which has a link to my DramEd and soca moves and a little bit about myself.
Amazing. Sara Jane, thank you so much for the conversation. I just feel like it's so enriching. I feel like it has got so many valuable nuggets of wisdom for so many people out there. So thank you so much for coming on the show, and thank you so much to our listeners. If you have any questions, feel free to pop me an email. Currently my email is DramEd, so grace@dramed.com, but performers who pivot we are creating our very own email for this podcast, which is exactly that, performers who pivot. So there will be a website and a email address coming soon, but yeah, drop me any questions. If you have anything you want us to cover or talk about, let us know. Thank you so much for listening. Please leave your comments, like. All right, bye for now.